In our second um, discussion about the wisdom of no escape, we're going to cover the wisdom of no escape again, because um, we spend the majority, right, of our time trying to get away from something that we don't want, don't like, are afraid of, are uncomfortable with. It could be any of that. Didn't pick is my, I didn't pick this. I used to say that. Like, what made you think you were going to get to pick? What mind thought you should be able to pick? Like, that's even crazier. I didn't pick this. Great, right. And how to use everything is what we're talking about then, isn't it? How to use the difficulty, the failure, your version, the not getting it right, the neuroses, Chogyam would have said, to gain wisdom. Because in fact, I have a lot of experience in failure, to say that it has always been there that I have learned most. It was when I didn't turn the right way, when I didn't say the right thing, when I reacted, when I did scream and beat my chest, and that I could see the truth of suffering. Because now you're just sitting in it, right? You're just in it, and there's no way out. There's no escape, except for you. Except for you. So you sit there then as long as you need, don't you? Going, oh, shouldn't be this way, or life, why can't they just pick up their stuff, and why can't anybody else take out the garbage, until you by the water dripping on rock. That's the way I think of it, right? Each time we touch the hot coal, we'll say, we're learning something. And what we're at the minimum learning is, ouch, that hurts. But I think that's infinite wisdom. Like, ouch, that hurts. And it requires only one other thing. It's not just the touch on the hot coal, then, is it? Because we do that, I don't even know how many times I could tell you, grabbing it, shoving it down my throat, right? Trying to, besides the touch on the hot coal, which is called pain, we have to do something else to make it suffering. Anybody know what that is? Otherwise, it is just simply innate wisdom. Exactly. You gotta tell a story about it. And as long as you're buying into your story, guess what? Suffering continues and continues. We call that the cycle of samsara. It continues. Not the cold. The cold was never the problem. It didn't mean it didn't hurt either. But it was never going to be the cause of your suffering. The story about it, and what's your favorite story? This should not be happening to me, isn't it? Favorite story. Should not. It's hot. I didn't, right? It should not be happening to me. That's half of our story. What's the other half of the story? It should be going better because I'm me, right? It should work out. I applied to 9 schools. I should have gotten into one of them. We teach our kids this. Look at that. We teach them this, right? If you get the test prepper, you get the essay writer, you do all the right, then you should get into one of those big 9. There's absolutely no truth in this. It's not real. And we construct it. And then we construct it with our kids. You too are special. You too should have everything go your way. And then we call that happiness, don't we? This idea of it going your way, we call that happiness. Well, not in this tradition, do we? We don't call happiness getting into Stanford, getting through. No, we don't. We call happiness being with yourself completely. And from that accompaniment, there will be nothing else but ease, calm, and happiness. Then guess what? No matter the circumstance, it's not about that anymore. You got in or you didn't get in. You had to go to a community college first. Right? No problem. The problem always is in that storyline. And then we're going to talk about what goes through the bardo. So keep this idea of I've got a constructed storyline. And the truth is, it will play as it plays every day in every circumstance. By the way, don't believe it. When you go, hey, I think I got through that when I didn't do the me thing. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You just cut it off, buried it, or went to the other side. By the way, this is no improvement, which is I am unworthy. This is not an improvement. This is as narcissistic as we get, isn't it? It's just the other side. I am shit is as much a narcissistic story as I am everything. And they're both false, aren't they? There's no truth in either. What is true in each moment, arising and passing, in each moment, things I see and things I don't yet see, right? And how do I drop then completely into the what? The body, which cannot lie. It doesn't have any ability. Now, what does happen in the body, and I know about this for a lot of years, is it can go pretty numb so that it looks okay. You go and check in, I don't know, seems all right. Seems all right. But this is a part of also our constructed reality. We just go dead from here down, except when we exercise. And then we give it everything. We finally climb in, but we have to climb in because we just ran the 3rd marathon, or we just climbed the next highest thing, or we, right? And this is not going to serve us or work either, is it? Because you can't keep doing that either. So what about then when you have a knee injury and you're not going anywhere? How do you stay present, awakened, compassionate, and alive in the body? And we're going to talk about all that today. But I wanted to read this thing from Pema. We were talking about Pema a little bit, and then I'll tell the story before we meditate. We were talking about Pema because Pema is a part of the Shambhala tradition from Chogyam Trungpa, who was a character, you could say, and an addict. And I would say an addict of everything. He had the Rolex watch, he had the Bentley. This guy slept with, I can't think of the number of people, students. He drank, he eventually died of alcoholism. So he was like one rockin' id, just, and he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. Probably bipolar, I have to tell you honestly. I think an undiagnosed, untreated, likely. You know, that kind of appetite that happens in that hypomanic or manic. I'm looking at Dia because she's a therapist. Like, right? You know these people. Yeah. We're all those people, right? In the lesser or more ways. And he, his son then became the next Rinpoche. And his son had the exact same proclivities. Maybe a little more masked, I would say. And exactly the same thing happened. Now, all these years, Pema was saying, I can't say whether that happened or not. I can't say whether Chogyam was involved with these students or not. The only thing I can say is that it never happened to me. And I believed her, although I didn't believe her that she didn't have some sense, because we know now, don't we, that you can't not know, that it's actually almost not possible. You can, though, not look, right? That's possible. And often we get confused. We mistake the not looking for the not knowing, and they're not the same. And it happens, doesn't it, in toxic family systems. You go, I didn't know. I didn't know where they were going when they got up from the table and took, right. And so she said for over 40 years, I can't say I don't know. And she was called on the carpet a lot, by the way, as we got clearer about family systems. And she would say, I just can't say. Well, when it happened with the son, she said, and there was an entire letter written by her that was published, by the way, that's how serious it was. If he doesn't step down, I'm quitting. I will step down from Shambhala. I won't do this anymore. And I thought, wow, it took 45 years. 45 years for her to see clearly. Now, this is a woman that practices every day for hours, that goes into 3-month retreat every year, right? And couldn't see what she couldn't see for as long as she couldn't see it. And then one day, given the rising conditions of that, went, nope, we're done now, and literally blew the top off of Shambhala, right? And said, he's gone. He's never to return. No one in that family is ever to return. We're not just going on to A, B, and C guy who we're going to throw in there, or I'll step down. And of course, we know she's the cash cow. She's it. She's the book writer. She's the, right? And so they couldn't finally. But look at how, and can't we feel for her too? Can't we? It takes exactly what it takes to finally go, I see now that this, right, the way I am contributing to my own suffering, and then the way I am contributing, however haplessly or unintentionally it is, to the suffering of others, right? Yeah, you'd think. Not at all. It was in the 80s. There was kind of a lot, 70s and 80s, there was a lot of accumulation happening. And it was sort of, he was in that circle. He was in that circle. Now we could say, unfortunately, the same about Jack Kornfield. This guy drives a nice car. He's in LA every other weekend. Somebody's paying for those flights. They charge a lot of money for teachings that were once free. So it's just, what do you get used to? Right? You get used to it. You go, yeah, I get more emails from Jack and Tara than I do from my family. Don't you? Yeah. I probably, yeah. I mean, I know her birthday. Because we get, yeah, it's incredible. And I'm not faulting the teachings. I think they're beautiful and necessary and relevant. And we're all waking up every moment, aren't we? And so then we just have to rest in that. Okay. So you get what I'm saying. So the wisdom of no escape is don't avoid anything. Don't avoid your numbness. Don't avoid your distracted mind. Don't push away the sick belly. This is information. It's critical. Had Pema, right, or I been able to connect with that 40 years ago, right, the wisdom of that would have been able to cultivate and ripen, we call it, over these last 40 years, right? So don't push away anything. This is the wisdom, then we get it, don't we, of no escape. Everything that is arising is a part of the wisdom factor. Now, it only requires that one other thing, and that is what? That you are awake to it. That you drop into the numbness, that you drop into the achy belly, that you drop into the distractedness, or the I don't even want to look, or the, right? And then what? That you drop in, you recognize that it's there. That's half recognition. What's the other half? Recognition, not enough. Decision, not yet. Compassion. Always. It's the thing we miss. We don't like this part. I don't want to have to open to my ick. I don't want to have to really look at my swearing at the dog, or right, kicking the cat, or whatever. I just, because it's uncomfortable, right? My own, I don't want to see that. And so rather I recognize, I go, okay, that's that, put that over there now. Now I can be better or different, right? We play that game, but that's not actually the way it works. In fact, it won't work for you. So give it up. That will not work. I'll get better. Forget it. I will get open, compassionate, and caring. Matters for myself. For myself first, and then all those. just like me, who are addicts, who suffer, who get confused, who get too tired, too. And then we breathe that. And that's the transformation, not the idea of being better or getting it right. In fact, can you see how the ego feeds? Isn't it? It's really dangerous. I'm going to get better now. Now that I see how much caramel corn I'm eating, I'll just eat less, as if that's going to work. By the way, it didn't work. It doesn't work. It'll never work. Why? Nothing's changed. Because you'd have to stick around, wouldn't you, for the distress that comes up that got you to get to the caramel corn in the first place. Nobody likes this. It's easier, and we said it, didn't we, to go do something first, not first. So recognize, we sit with, be with, we breathe it in. This is the infinite Tonglen practice that we're going to do today. No escape. This is the Tonglen practice. And I will stay and stay and stay. And I might throw up. I don't know, might faint. I might start sobbing or screaming like Jack Kornfield did in that conference where I thought, oh my God, I paid for this? 3 days of crying, right? It was perfect. And it was a perfect teaching. And I thought, this guy gets money for this. This is unbelievable. I just so didn't get it because I didn't want to be uncomfortable. I wanted to get smarter. I wanted him to impart something to me so that I could get out of the suffering I was in. And I thought if you could just stop crying long enough and actually say something, this could work out. No, it was actually not true. I had to sit with him and his sobbing and my own, the wisdom that's right there. Okay, do we get it? I'll tell the Choctaw story after. It's actually quite lovely. But let's practice now. So we're going to go back to the Tonglen practice because not only are we not escaping, we're actually turning towards, moving closer and breathing it in. Like that's gutsy, isn't it? Big time guts. Right towards the grip, the numb, the didn't want it, the blame, the shame, the judgment, whatever we're doing, we're going to hold it like that mother luminosity. That's why we practice that first. Because if you can't hold it in wide open space, you can't touch it. Because then you mistake it for you and you choke on it. Right? So every time you've choked in Tonglen practice, it's because you made you solid and you made that thing you're breathing in solid. Do you get it? And Mother Child Luminosity says there is nothing solid here at all. It is merely a confluence of processes happening, coming and going. And that's, in fact, what we'll talk about those right through the BARDOS. Yeah. Let's practice. I don't have my bell, but we don't need a bell for practice. You don't need a cushion. What do you need? This body, this mind, and then this open heart. And so we're just going to sit for a moment, actually enjoying the space within and around you. The space within you, remember, identified as child luminosity, your own unique spaciousness, the heart, mind, and body of you. And make contact with that in whatever way you can. For me, it's easy to touch into the breathscape and the body there. See what works for you. And just for a moment, while we're resting in that breathscape, we're going to call to mind all those who have goofed it up before us. Chogyam, and Pema, and the Buddha himself, and all the awakened ones. who spent lifetimes, we're supposing, coming into this present moment awakening. And then this is our primary commitment and aspiration to see if we can't simply wake up present, available, receptive, one breath at a time. And your mind has already wandered. You're probably a little itchy somewhere. You're wondering, am I going to be able to sit like this for the whole time? A little off. I just realized I don't have my Invisalign in. I'm thinking, uh-oh, I think I should have gotten those. And none of this is any problem at all. Remember, the story is never the problem. The buying into the story as the reality is where all the trouble begins. And so we're just recognizing the mind and its movements, and we smile, understanding this as a part of the essential human condition, nothing to get rid of at all. And we come back to this one sensation, this one body, this one breath. And it doesn't take too many breaths before you go, wait a minute, when I don't get hooked into that me story, when I can just rest for whatever minuscule moment I can, like a feather touching a bubble, I notice the release from distress. And it comes as a flash. And that's called the heart of bodhicitta, this vast, open, boundless space of which you are a part. And there is no me, I, or mine in it at all. There's just vast, open space. And then we call that mother luminosity. And Chogyam himself, however much of an addict he was, he kind of got this. It was he who brought this teaching that I very much love, which is, and then we don't hold on to that open space either. We touch it, we have a very brief experience of it, and then we let it go, and then just rest completely, like no effort, no more work. You don't even try to keep it. That by itself becomes a problem. And so we rest completely in the out breath. And breathe in that vast open space with the next in breath. That light touch. And in Tonglen practice, just for supports, remember we already had called on all the wisdom from all those addicts. And now we call them awakened ones. And we remember that that capacity, that heart, is right here available to us too. That we are the same addicts with the same capacity for awakening, right in the middle. And so we rest again and again in that mother luminosity, inviting in all the child's play, the mind wandering, the itchy, restless body. None of this is seen as a problem. In fact, we know it's a wisdom factor. Can I recognize my habit in regard to the wandering mind, which is to blame, shame, judge, go, you did it again. And can we just let go of that, just letting the wandering be the wandering? And like that most loving, most precious mother, we invite that wisdom in. We breathe it in. This is the unifying of the mother-child luminosity. This then is a complete moment of awakening. But remember, the recognition is only half of the path. But it is important early work to just recognize mind, recognize mind movement, catch the little shards of storyline, and without pushing away, without gripping, we simply let them rest in that lap of the mother. And while there is the child separate from the mother, we call this dual consciousness, a subject object relationship, a thing in open space, not seeing clearly. That in fact, these two things are interconnected, interdependent. And the word we use often is co arising. that there is no separation between awakening and this addicted, wandering, shut down moment of mind. And then you notice the body can relax a little bit because there's nothing to get rid of. There's nothing required. You don't have to be different in any way. You don't have to even get another thought. The wise awakened mind continues to embrace whatever is arising. Stabilizing, calming, unifying. And remembering not to mistake anything that arises as a solid me, but something we might call conditioned process, conditioned phenomena that's come before you and by your very clear seeing, by your very attention, by your very opening, you are transforming without trying to get rid of anything. And we must stabilize the heart mind first before we turn towards the difficult. So don't take this lightly. This is a complete process and practice, and you don't just jump into the coals. It's not skillful. But because we are now stabilized and unified, because we are now calmed and at greater ease, we do have the room, the space, and the capacity for turning towards something that has been somewhat difficult. So, recollecting now a moment of reactivity, a moment of difficulty. I didn't plan this, I didn't want this, I wanted something else. Just recollect that. And then we take a few moments to develop the storyline. What was happening with that's even coming to mind for you. Might have been a moment with yourself or a moment with another. And we're recollecting as much from the mind angle as we can, where we were, who we were with, and there'll be just some experience with that interaction. Mine was with my husband, and I was triggered by a third statement of needing validation. It's just an example. And I was like, seriously, dude? And from that, you're dropping them beneath the picture, beneath the image, and beneath the storyline, right into the heart of it. And you're seeing if you can't hold yourself, that child in you that was scared or pained or lost or confused. And so we can hold the image, but don't keep constructing words. See if you can't move beneath the words, says, beneath the words, into the felt sense of this distress. And I go right into the heart center and the surrounding area. I'm staying with the mental image of that brief interaction. And really just breathing it in. And I'm kind of inviting a little inquiry here, like what's really going on? But we're not asking that as an analytic. We're asking that of our own heart, body, breath experience. What's going on right here? I can feel a contractedness, a kind of emptiness, and quite a bit of guardedness here. And there's nothing to do with it. I don't have to fix it. I'm not changing anything. I'm just breathing, letting it inform the whole of my mind, body. There may be physical sensations. There may be what we call subtle sensations, which is beyond a kind of perceptual. It's a little more energetic in nature, which I'm definitely feeling. And then we have what's called the very, very subtle, which is sub-perceptual, we might say. But we have a sense of it there. And I have a sense of something also. Though I couldn't probably put a word on the sensation. We're just resting around it, holding it as kindly as with as much friendliness. And care. And we just keep breathing in. Maybe noticing changes or waves of experience, sometimes intensifying, sometimes maybe disappearing even. And with this recognition, with this allowing, we can then just stay in the breath inquiry. What is this? What's here? What's needed? And that may not come as insight or words at all. And we're not actually looking for that. The wisdom factor is already available by your very opening. You don't have to come up with an answer. There doesn't have to be a sentence. Your very willingness to stay and continuing to open is the practice. We breathe into it. We make contact. We open wider. And on the out breath, we let the wisdom permeate the whole of the heart, mind, and body. For some people, it's helpful to make gentle, whispered notes, heart, out, right, no. But we don't want to hang on to that as solid. If you're making that note, you touch in lightly as well with the note and then also let it go. And then we invite an essential inquiry for this Tonglen, this sending and taking practice. And I feel for myself, the first and most essential inquiry. Can I feel for myself? Can I stay with myself? Can I breathe and be and bear witness to myself in this moment of difficulty? one breath at a time. With whatever's here or another. Remembering that there is nowhere else to go, no one else to be, and no better path. And then touching into whatever is arising, something pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, maybe numb, maybe nothing, maybe drifted all the way off into a whole other storyline. And remember all of them inviting wisdom. We simply open then now, this body, this breath, with this experience. And I feel for myself, recognizing this as a moment of stress, distress, difficulty. And then can I remember, this is the getting bigger still, that others, and maybe all others, just like me, feel this too. And we breathe in then through the whole of the body, not just the nostril, but each cell, each pore, each hair. Let it touch every muscle, every vein, every artery, and the whole heart. And I feel for us all. And as we breathe in that reality, that difficulty, opening, remembering that in this humanness we will all know suffering. By the very willingness to open, to stay, to breathe. With the out breath, we begin to transform that dukkha, that samsara, the kleshas, these are all different words for ways we suffer. We transform it into the healing path, to the good medicine. And we breathe that out, being sure to begin by breathing it right through the whole of you. We send out that clarity, that clear seeing, the radiance, the open, compassionate heart, the softened body, the wise mind. Right through us, into the whole of the world. And this is the natural response to the truth of something. And it is the complete path to the end of suffering. no escape, nothing to have to move away from, because then we deprive ourselves of this boundless, infinite, vast part of compassion. And if you notice that there's no longer a tightness, a stuckness, and you're noticing that felt sense of boundlessness, you can begin to breathe in and through that and send it out in all directions. Offer it to others who you know are also in suffering. Breathe in their difficulty and send out that fineness of loving kindness and compassion. And then, where is the bardo and what moves through it? Do we all have happiness and the causes for happiness? May we all be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Seeing the path. May we all rejoice and be glad at our good fortune, remembering the preciousness of this human life. And may we all rest in this vast, wide, and open space with mother-child luminosity, breathing for ourselves in the whole of the world. And may this practice this very morning contribute So be it. So then what did you notice? Yeah, there's always more space available. Isn't it amazing when we remember? Even when we forget, we can remember that I'm just in a moment of forgetting. That's it. And then we can honor, regard, hold, love, care for that too. We don't even have to force remembering. That it happens really by its very willingness. That's the word I keep using. To turn towards what we otherwise think. I don't have it for that. But you do have it for that because it's already here.
The resistance comes first.
Resistance is almost always the first impulse. Yeah.
And there's maybe some emotional response and anger. A lot of times.
Even more contractedness.
And then the story.
What do you suppose the first resistance is to? Because we haven't even told the story yet. We just touched the coal.
It's not liking, not wanting, not working out for me here. This is.
It's not going my way. This shouldn't be happening. Yeah, the resistance is actually almost always, the initial resistance is almost always physical. We don't even have a name for the thing called cold yet, or hot, or not liking. The very first thing is ah, and it grips us like that. And we don't even catch that about 90% of the time. We miss that. We don't even get it here. We catch it as we're going, nah.
I'm already in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason happened and we're already in it.
Yeah. And we've already sunk the ship by the very rejection, resistance of the physicality of the unpleasantness or the confusion or the, I'll use my instance. I heard myself say to my husband, who asked me for a third time for validation about a thing, I've already congratulated him 3 times. This is amazing. You're amazing. This is incredible.
Never enough.
You've done it. You're, and he goes, did you see the back there? Did you look completely? And he opens the back door. And I'm like, I'm done. I don't have any more of this. Now, by the way, that's me. There's nothing about him that is the difficulty here. So don't mistake it. This is me going, if I keep giving all this to you, what's going to be left for me? Now, I didn't think that at all. I just went, Jesus, how many times tell you how amazing you are? Every day, all day? Fear. Uh-oh. If I have to keep doing this, if you keep asking me for this, if I just have to keep going, yeah, you're amazing. Yeah, if I have to keep mirroring you, what's going to happen with me? And I made the me, not him. I constructed that. Now, can I feel for that? The answer is I can. Can't I feel for myself in my own child wound? Who's going, uh-oh, you know how to give stuff away. You're maybe not as good as getting it. And we're going to get in trouble here if we have to keep doing this. Now, by the way, that's the story. That's just the story I've told. That's not the truth.
I came up with this thing of compassion for myself because you're such a jerk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. Compassion for me because you're such a dope. Yeah. That's one of our storylines, right? I used to actually say out loud, this is horrifying. I used to say, if you were better, I could really love you. If you could just get it together,
Right.
if you could be different, right, then I could. And I didn't say it exactly like that, but that's actually what I meant. You have to somehow be other than you to be loved. And the real truth is, it's not actually the truth. The truth is, I have to be different. Actually. And it's too scary because what if I can't? Or what if I'm not? Or what if I can't get it together? Right now, what? Now we're all screwed. And the truth is, can I stay with myself right in that shaky tenderness? And the answer is, we're not even making contact with it. We don't pause long enough. We don't hold. We don't open. It is not in the brainstem habit to do so. We immediately go into the story. And the story is, if only something were different, I could be okay. But then look at where we're putting all the authority, all the agency, all the power in life. We're putting it on the thing or the other or the history or the past or the right. We're not taking claim of this infinite capacity that we have to just be with ourselves however we are. Shaky like this, resistant like this, tender, I would say, like this. Why? Because it sounds good. Why don't we do it? Very scary.
It's acknowledging how much power.
Also, and that's scary. Both sides are scary. The vulnerability of us is terrifying, and the power within it is terrifying. They're like I don't want either job. I want to give that to somebody else.
Like how much change for the mom.
Yes. And particularly, why do you suppose that is, Char? Why do we struggle with the reality that we're ever changing, nothing solid, nothing fixed, nothing permanent, no one?
There's safety.
Solidity. We like the idea, and then we get to bitch a lot about what doesn't happen for us with it. You get to complain continuously now, because look at what I don't get to keep, hold, make mine, establish, secure, right? This whole unfolding thing is like, forget about it. I don't want that. That's ridiculous. And then opening to that. Why? So I can be panicked most of the day? Who needs that? I'm panicked already. So that I can now feel the wound of that? Oh no, for never. This is truly a fearless path, isn't it then? Then you realize any moment you dropped in, that's a big deal. I mean, literally the one. You went, all right, I'll just be here with this, even though I feel like I'm going to throw up. How huge it is. And how they call it complete awakening. Just that one moment. And do you realize then that most of the people we know don't do this ever at all? Really? Isn't that? There's not one moment, not one, where somebody goes, I wonder what that is in me. Right? They're just going, life sucks. You're an idiot. It's too traffic, right? All day long, just all day long. And then we see a war and another war. And don't anybody ask how we got there, because we all know. Just like that. It was you. It was it. It was that. It's not going the way it should be going for me. And we're amazing at this, our capacity. And we're lost every time we do it, aren't we? We've just given it all away. Again, now I've handed it to that conflict. Now I've given it to that, right? Soul, that being who said, I just need to be recognized for my goodness. Right, my beloved. Right. And so then how do we practice? What are you going to do now? What are you going to do knowing this? What do you do? What do you do? So you see it, you go, whoop, here's me, a little vulnerable, a little scared, a little bit lost, confused, not sure what's going on.
You say, that's okay.
Yeah, you could just name it. Says the neuroscience, naming it alone brings it into more perceptual. I can hold that because I can go, well, there I was feeling a little bit scared, a little bit confused, a little bit not liking, right? Just that alone makes it more workable instead of me, the horrible person who one more time did the thing. Just that, can I hold that? Number one. And then the second part is, can I stay? Can I breathe it a few times? Can I get beneath all the thoughts about it and just let it inform me with that shaky tenderness, with that little tight belly? And that works 100% against this brainstem that's going, get out of here. Make this about somebody else. Protect you. Protect the I by making it somebody else's problem. Right. And then I could go, you asked me 3 times to do, right? Look how simple that was. I didn't even need a bad guy in order to get it off of me. I'm going to read here a little bit. Be compassionate, yes, and find empathy. Yes, beginning with you. Right? You can't feel for the other first. It's not actually real. You can graft that on. Really, can I feel for myself in my own terror, in my own lostness, in my own confusion, in my own uh-oh, if I give this all away, will there be enough for you? And then can I feel, here's the amazing thing, and we know, we talked about morphic resonance last week. If you are feeling that, guess who else is feeling that? The other morphic resonance. So if you've got a sick belly, guess who else has a sick belly? Right there. You are not independent. You are not separate. You are not. It is not true. So if you're going, whoa, right? Because then what would compel somebody to ask 3 times? Their own insecurity, their own lostness, their own feeling to fit right in their own fear in some way. And that's why we say, and then can you feel not only for yourself, but for the other who is feeling, by the way, we know this for sure, just like you. Isn't it amazing? Because we've got a whole other story going on, don't we? About the other, what they're really doing, why they're really doing it. They're in a whole other thing. They're selfish. They're greedy, needy. We got a whole blah, 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 blah. No, they are just like you in a moment of insecurity, in a moment of fear, in a moment of confusion, just like you, probably, says the research, feeling the same or similar physical sensations. We know this by the research. When we said, how are you feeling in the argument? First, I was like, I felt sick in here, and then my shoulder over here was hurting, and my ears started to burn, and my eyeball started to twitch. We say, and how are you? Blah, 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 blah. Constellation is amazing. Isn't that incredible? So what can you know? And what would you do if you knew it? If you just knew it, if I'm feeling this distress, you too are now completely feeling this distress. What would you do? You could only respond to you both, couldn't you? You'd go, can I feel for us all in this moment of difficulty? Right? That's it. And what would you say? Probably nothing, actually. Probably not. It wouldn't come that way, would it? It would come in some more cellular form. I could have just gone and hugged my husband. Probably.
Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional because I was triggering when I used to drive my mom to and from her chemo appointments. And when I pick her up, she was in so much pain and discomfort. And I remember like feeling that, you
Yes,
feel that pain.
you really did.
But
Yes,
then
you
there was a part of me that was like, you're not allowed to complain because she's the one going through chemo, not you.
did. That's right.
But then now that I'm hearing this, it's like, no, I should have been like, oh yeah, this is horrible for us both. You know
That's
what I mean?
right.
As opposed to trying to deny
That's
my
right.
feelings.
And that makes me cry. What if we could have opened to us both?
Yeah.
The pain in me for having a mother sick and the pain in that mother who's sick and leaving her child. What would you have done? Nothing. You would have cried.
Yeah.
Okay. And see, we don't want to, do we? We go, no, get that together. Sew that up somehow. And then act out right from some crazy thing called, well, what's the right thing to do? I hate that question. I hate that question. I'm promising you nothing right comes from there. It does not. Forget it. It will not come from there. It will come from here to go, I know, or I don't know. Either one, right? I don't even know. And if you can feel that for yourself, then look what happens for the other. You just hold us all there. This is the Tonglen practice made real. There it is right there. If I'm feeling sick, you're probably feeling sick. If I'm confused, you're confused. If I'm feeling like this is too hard, you're probably feeling like this is too hard. And then we respond. And I don't care what you do from there. If you just respond, it'll always be the right thing. And you can count on it. And then you don't have to ask the question, right? Because what would you do? You'd reach out in some way, right? Or you'd know and just breathe it. You could do that too, couldn't you? Just breathing it in for us all.
Like it. Mind remember that you can also do yourself. Realizing you have your storyline.
Yeah.
Where's my storyline? Instead of just standing.
Yes. Yes. Or with distraction mostly. Yeah.
Thing. Care of that.
Yeah.
Face it. Face scary.
Yes.
And when
Yes.
you attend it to yourself,
It's the never
10
ending.
years that takes.
Yeah.
Then
Or 45, right? I'm going to say maybe that's a linear concept about it, but what about this? I like this idea. What if every time I touched into that for me, I was also helping you? By the very allowing, by the very honesty, by the very vulnerability of it. What if it transformed us both right there? That I didn't have to wait 10 years for anything. That it was already happening. No words, probably. No like big boing insight, but really we'll stay with that concept of morphic resonance. Aren't we changing everything? Yes, by that one mind that opened and didn't do its habit. Already completely different. right then.
Yeah, because well, giving the example of driving my mom to and from chemo, if I had the, awareness when I was doing that of like, oh, it's okay, we're both suffering, maybe I would have been less anxious towards her or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it would have had like an instant response.
You might not have been so reassuring, and at the minimum, not demanding that she look okay, which is what I'm certain I did to my father.
Oh.
Because he was a strong guy anyway, and so am I. So we both wore the strong thing.
Trying to out tough each other.
We can do this. We can do this. And I cannot cry, and you cannot cry. Both be good. This is crazy. It's insane, isn't it? It's actually a kind of nuts, right? You think about it, you go, that doesn't seem right or useful. And we would have both cried a lot. Wouldn't we? A lot. And maybe that's all we would have done for you. And can we bear that? Can you tolerate just this?
Yeah,
It's just this. And would we have cried forever? No.
I was with somebody, this was a couple of years ago, and they had just gone through some major treatment for their liver. They were diagnosed with liver disease, a number of other things. And out of my mouth came this thing, oh, you can. And I couldn't believe I said it. And the weird thing about it was it didn't allow for us to feel
The tenderness
pain,
you
the
really
suffering
felt.
that he was going through.
Yes, it can't allow the truth.
I
You
didn't
want it to be okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say after that.
Don't we all?
I've already bloated here.
Don't we all want to be? And we think the okay, this is the crazy part, is denial, avoidance, paste on, graph over, get some other way. This is the mistake, is if I can only get it together. How often do we say this? Get it together. What does that mean? That means be some other way.
Which you're going to be anxious about.
Yeah, which you can't really pull off that well, right? But by the way, everybody else gets the memo too. They're going, okay, you can't touch this. I can't touch this either. And so we all get it together.
I can relate to that in that somebody in a group I was had suddenly long life-threatening illness, and they're grappling with the terms of that, very afraid. And in a group chat message, few of us were trying to allow that person to be able to voice out how scared she was. There was also people in that chat that were saying that were kind of felt like putting us down in the business of that and saying things fine. And I realized the difference. Not really sure which was better. Probably all of it was good. But it did make me feel a question like, am I being too negative? Is this negative? So I know what that means.
Well, if anyone's, I think I told Diana this once, there was a Spalding Gray moment where he was talking about his Christian Science self versus, it was like to name it is to claim it, or to name it is to let it own you. So there is like this what's the duality I'm trying to describe?
Yeah.
It's like if you name it, then you're letting it own you, versus naming it and saying, goodbye.
Like overly identifying.
Yeah,
Identifying with it.
Yeah. It's a people do the opposite.
Right.
I love that you quoted Spalding Gray. I don't hear that very often. That's awesome.
Because he was saying, it was like his Christian Science upbringing is if you name it, then you're letting it take it for you.
Well, by recognition alone.
Yeah.
It has gotten you. this
Yeah.
is not accurate.
Yeah.
And, right, if you recognize and then take claim, identify with that sick belly, those tears, right, and say,
Yeah.
this is me, or
That's the
this,
story.
yeah, you have to watch that storyline once again. And so I want you to think about, what do I do with this now? If this is true, and some part of you I know knows it, then what is the practice for you? Let's say, name a thing you could do for yourself and others in a real life moment that you're going to commit to practicing. What could you do? Receptive, open heart. I thought of this moment I'm recollecting with my husband, and I could have put my finger up and just stayed for a couple breaths with that sick feeling. And rather than go, seriously, you've asked me this 3 times, I could have gone, you know what? I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed, or I'm feeling a little bit scared, and I'm feeling a little bit small right now. And I'm just going to stay with it. Could have done that. That would have been right.
And they're saying not say anything at all.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think sometimes for me, it doesn't happen.
Right.
I feel the knock that I don't feel. And what
That's
I
right.
had brought is I've had this text conversation with a younger person, and he and I tend to, he pushes my buttons and I push his. And I asked him a simple question. Response. And instead of me clarifying what I actually meant, because he took it in, I went, okay, fine. And then and then it just ended, and he said something else back, and then I went to sleep that night, and it was simple. It was a
Right.
completely non-important thing.
Right.
And then the next day I went, he didn't understand. I got hurt, he's hurt. And then I called him up, and I was like, we have a problem. And the next time you take something, like, I would love it if you get insulted or something, you can go, Mom, is this what you really meant? And for me, I'm gonna try right away when I see that to just go, Matthew, I didn't really, just something. But we both got triggered over a ridiculous thing. Right. And I mean, texts are really hard because you can't tell them. It's worse so much. Yeah, because it's worse even when you're on the phone, which we get into it on the phone too. We're working on it, we're both. But sometimes it's just not right away. You just sit with this thing, him and to Lil and it's him and it's just so ridiculous. I was hurting.
Yes.
And
yes.
And the next day was the feeling was completely different because we both were hurt.
That's right. We mostly get hurt because we feel that who we really are is not seen, don't we? That the goodness in us, the care in us, the love in us is somehow not translated by action, by word, or by presence, right? And then we get a kind of offended or injured because wait a minute, that isn't even what I meant. Right? You're not seeing the heart of this. And then we feel compelled to explain ourselves or correct the other. You're not seeing this correctly. We have every version of that. And I agree. I think the very first thing is, can we turn towards our own humanness, our own vulnerability, and feel for ourselves, and then all those who also want to be seen and heard and understood and loved. Right. Yeah. Yep.
Say something.
Yep.
I feel, and
Yeah.
I think
Or 45 years. See, linear time is not relevant because each moment is the water dripping on rock. It is a moment of ripening. It is a moment of awakening. Even when you went, really that long? Really, this is simply linear time. It's not relevant. It's that we are committed in some way to the path. This matters a lot because remember, accorded to few, both the teachings, the understanding of this, and then the willingness and commitment to practice. Very few people out of the 7 billion plus are even turning towards this at all in any way. And how essential is it? Well, I think it's going to be the difference between a world surviving and a world not surviving. It's right here in us. And I don't mean the me of us, but that mind that's going to go, wait a minute, I know, right? If Israel and Gaza could figure this out, right? You killed somebody, I killed somebody, we've all killed somebody. Now we're killing more somebodies. Now we're going to kill some more somebodies, hoping we can put that right. And it will never happen that way. And boy, don't I get it. I do. Totally. I understand completely. And then can we willingly turn towards our own vulnerability, our own pain, our own aggression, our own hatred, our own complaint? Can we do that? With what? Not with criticism, judgments, condemnation, but with what? Compassion. Can I acknowledge what's really here? My own fearful, lost child, and hold it. And so we're going to work on this short, abide, pause, right? We teach this, just tap at the heart, meaning, wait a minute, I'm not acting from anything else. I'm just going to stay right here, right? We have agreements in when I work in family systems, when someone taps, everything stops. That's the agreement. Everything, not one more word. That means I'm vulnerable. I know it. I don't want to cause harm. I want to be present to me and you. 3 taps. By the way, we also know in the polyvagal system that the tap, right, is relieving. And so you can tap that all day long. Just light tap, right? What would it mean? It would mean I'm trying to be present to me so that I can be present to you, right? Just that. Wouldn't that be amazing? Can you imagine a world where rather than the harm, rather than the fall into the myth, that we just tapped and then could hold each other in it? Right? Because when I see somebody do that, I don't want to cause them harm. Right? I want to be there with them. I can hold that too. Right? What if we practiced it?
Already my critical mind is thinking, oh, someone can use the tap passive aggressively.
Couldn't they? They could shut you up with it.
Yeah.
Couldn't they? Tap, tap, tap. Nothing for you to say.
Yeah. So this prior to this ongoing thing, and he's finally was taking steps to get through his addiction. So anyway, we've all been supportive and everything, and he's alone. So doing what I could, giving techniques kind of like the thing, or just like certain real practice things to help settle his mind.
Yep.
And in the meantime, up, so I'm trying to do this, or breaking into a guitar solo when we're in this little cover. So he decided to check himself out of 7 days of So needless to say, my daughter came back home here. I forgot to go back. everything. And I could already tell he still has that drunk sound, even though he's been not drinking. So I know it's like that whole Joe Wall sound. So.
Yeah.
So, we're talking on the phone, and I could tell like it's not the normal conversation. Well, yeah, I bounced. I went out and got some shots, and all right, and then I could feel for him. I had that compassion. I know that vulnerability that could easily be me.
That's right.
Like all those things.
That's right.
And there was a part of me that was just so fucking pissed off.
Yep. Yep.
With everything that my daughter has been doing to set up so funny for the situation.
Right.
And so angry and so fearful. Like when we were sitting here, like that's the whole thing. It's always the fear.
Right. That's
It's
right.
always a fear.
That's right.
And I could understand his loneliness, his abandonment, his like, I could totally feel all that.
Yeah.
But I just lost my shit on him so hard. And then in the midst of doing it, I was feeling bad for doing it.
Yeah. That's the habit.
Yeah. And I was just like, why couldn't I just listen? And I was listening, and I was saying, hey, well, okay, so you bounced. All right. So what do you think? Just,
That's right.
but I did. Like that whole evil Medusa face,
Yeah.
head splitting,
Yeah.
like thing, and I just was like, after doing.
Yep.
Oh gosh.
Do you know how that happened? Do you know where the turn was?
That could easily just be me.
It was feeling for him before you. It was thinking, I've got to, right?
Yeah,
I
but
have
wanna
to
fix
honor
it,
his
not have to-
difficulty. I want to figure out what I can do for him. This is our second, third, and eighth place. And then not honoring. This is terrifying. And I don't know what to do. I feel like screaming. And that would have been more honest. And he would have said, me too.
When I even made that comment, I can understand how terrifying.
Yep. I just want you to remember how terrifying it is for you.
It is.
It is.
And I said that.
It's
I said,
gotta
you
be.
don't know how scary this is for not for
Yes.
Alicia and your cousin.
Yeah, he does know. Doesn't he? He does know. That's why he drank. He knows exactly how terrifying it is. He's just not ready because you got to turn towards that about, well, I'll keep using PEMA's 45 years to go, okay, I can breathe this, be with this, right? And just make sure that we honor the truth of that in us, because the anger is the second, that's the resistant response, which is, I'm sick of this. Look at all we've done for you. Look at all we've tried, all the, right, blah, blah. And we don't honor and acknowledge and stay with our own vulnerability. You're not going to feel for him first, not before you. And then, of course, your daughter, who you could easily feel for, but stay in your own heart. It's pain. Of course it is. How could it be otherwise? What reasonable response would there be? But this is just breaking my heart. And you don't say it because that's not going to be helpful to him. He already feels terrific shame. And
Well, he's going through this. It's like I was waking up super, I've been talking to him every day.
yes,
Okay. But then I was waking up like, or I would talk to him like, yeah, it was rough morning this morning. Gosh, okay, I need to like set up a better grounding system here because like,
for you,
yeah,
you stay with you. This is all of our work. And remember the 3 tabs, just in the honor. That's right. You
Well,
didn't
what
come
I
up
was
with
gonna
anything.
Say to her is.
Yeah.
This is how.
well, and I
How
keep,
any of us
Yeah.
would have.
I mean, we were really close at one
reacted.
time. We had a daughter together. We were living together, and it's not like I'm not ever going to feel for him and have that understanding for him, but
You
for the
are.
both of us.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, it's human. The angry. And then that told me, oh, I do that too. Then my reaction would be, oh, so bad because I'm angry. Well, there's the problem. I'm not feeling for myself
That's right.
and going, okay, Renee, you're just a human.
That's right.
Like, of course you're gonna be angry.
That's
But
right.
trying to react in my head, but that's not what I would always do either. I'd be feeling like you too.
Is hanging up the phone appropriate? I'm not thinking of your situation.
Oh
just
no,
for
my
me.
mom's done that to me before, so I'm always like, really, how old are we? Mom?
But I mean, is it better to hang up the phone or?
You can't say.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
I wouldn't dare try for that wisdom, because the first wisdom is the one. Can I
Yeah.
be with myself in my own suffering?
Yeah.
And then I promise whatever you do from there is wiser. Right then it's wiser. We're already way after. I did not want to cut this off because this is our work. This is our important work. And then we all want a solution. We all want to get it right. We all want to have the right thing to say. Forget it. Forget about it. No, I don't know what you're going to do after that. I only know it's going to be right path. It will be. From staying with yourself and going, really, after all this, you're just going to drink. And that's terrifying to me. And then you stay. And that's terrifying to me. And that you say it to yourself. I don't know what you're going to say to the other. That's not what's first. Okay. All right, everyone. I'm not going to do our closing today because it's already 9:13 and I know people have to go. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Greg, are you going to be on Thursday?
Yeah, I'll be on
Thursday morning. Greg will be on. I'm going to put out the newsletter because next two Saturdays, we're going to be doing our senior bags. So we'll put that in the newsletter. That's December 2nd. We'll stop at 8:30. We're going to do, I think, did we say 50?
25.
25. They're somewhat expensive. We're getting that all ready for us. We'll be doing that together here. And then we're also going to be feeding the monks on Friday the 1st. They prefer us bring lunch on the Friday the 1st. And then I will be attending the empowerment for loving kindness on the 2nd. And I have a little flyer for those who might want to join us. And that will be at the Seaside Center for Spiritual Living. Empowerment is a Tibetan ritual where they call up the particular deity that represents, and in this case, it is Kuan Yin, Avalokiteshvara, names you don't probably care about, but the embodiment of loving kindness. They do a visualization. You're visualizing it. Avalokiteshvara is dropping in and holding your heart for all loving kindness. And so they're offering that empowerment. I have never done this empowerment, actually, so I'm very excited about that. And that will be Saturday the 2nd at around 5-ish is when they'll be doing that. So I will make sure to put the link with all the activities, and I have some paper for people here. I want to thank everyone for also your contributions to the St. Andrews. I well overspent because the manager at Dollar Tree and I went into the back and they had all the prepackaged cans of tuna and chili. And I said, no, just load us up because this way we're ready for the winter. And so if you have any additional dollars to contribute to the St. Andrews, you're going to send that to EMC or to me to EMC. And I'm going to be giving all the monies that come to me, Donna, to St. Andrews for the month of November and December because we had an opportunity and I wanted to take it. And so thank you all for contributing. You can send it to me by Venmo. You can send it to EMC Mindfulness by Venmo also. You can put it in a box. You can write a check. You can hand any which way you can think of. We will accept that in our monies from November and December will go towards that.
And they are, excuse me, they are feeding now 220 families
Yes.
a week. It's gone up significantly.
A week, 220 families
It
a
was
week.
like 180 down to 220.
Yep, and
and-
it's gonna probably get bigger.
And they don't know exactly why, but that's what's happening. And they're doing it.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for your contribution. And remembering now that your contribution is greatest, your act of generosity is greatest by staying with yourself first. This is understood to be the most radical act of kindness and compassion possible. So do that first, and then whatever else comes, we let it go. All right, everyone. May we all be happy and filled with loving kindness. May we be well. And may there be peace. And may this practice this very day continue. So happy Thanksgiving to you all. Good to see you. Be well, everyone.